Dang, Haikyuu is so good. Why are we watching Coffee Prince when we could be watching Haikyuu?
Truthfully.
Yeah, right? All right, guys. Sorry, Just Kiss Already is over. It's time for the podcast just score already.
Yeah.
Where we watch Haikyuu only, and once we finish it, we just watch it again.
We start again. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Unfortunately, we are not going to be watching Haikyuu as much as Kara wants it. Though Kara does want the other shows that we watch, because actually at the end of the day, Kara is in control and gets to pick all the things that we do. I get to choose.
Yeah.
But wow, we're actually almost to the end of this series, aren't we, though?
Yeah, it's kind of coming up scary fast.
We've got 2 more. We've got episode 16, which is right now what we're about to talk about. And then episode 17 is the last one.
There's only 2 more hours of Coffee Prince? Like, not even?
Oh, that's so... Okay, 2 more episodes feels like normal, but when you say 2 more hours, that feels so real. I don't... Oh.
Ooh.
Damn. We've been watching... We've watched 15 whole hours of Coffee Prince. Like, in total, up to this point right now.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. And then we'll have to watch something else. And it won't be Haikyuu as much as Kara wants it, though it could be.
We can do a romantic interpretation of Haikyuu.
We'll spin it. We'll be like, okay, so it's like
they all love the ball.
Volleyball is like a metaphor for love. All right. Anyway, before we get into any fanciful ideas about the way to someone's heart by spiking, I guess. First, we got to talk about Coffee Prince. So we just watched episode 15, and boy howdy, are we feeling things?
Yeah.
But before we can allow ourselves a second to breathe, we might as well just go and start watching episode 16. So, Jaren, what do you think is going to happen in episode 16? Not episode 6. We already watched that one. You can't cheat.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I was saying, we've got 2 hours of this show left to go. And there's a lot of stuff happening. We need to see Han Sung and Yuju's marriage. We need to know what happens to Granny. We need to resolve this relationship drama between Han Gil and Unchan. And we also need to get whatever the hell Sun Yi's story is that we still haven't gotten anything about.
We need the last 3 seconds.
Yeah, our last 1 minute clip of his arc. And so, my prediction for episode 16 is that ambulance, come, pick up Grandma. Grandma in the gurney. Everybody's gathered around it. Grandma's not doing so good. She looks up at them and says, "Oh, I was so wrong to waste so much of my life being salty. Y'all should do a double wedding right now here at this time so I can see it. Because once I get in this ambulance, might not be coming back." So I predict the double wedding is going to happen. And then maybe to prolong the show, Unchan will accidentally get married to Han Sung. Like, the rings will be switched around. Sweeper's going to mix up the rings intentionally. And then the 17th episode's going to be a fun annulment / wow, that was weird. I guess we should actually talk about whether or not we want to get married now or in a couple years. And that's my prediction.
Wow. All right. I see where you're going with this. Okay. What do you think about Unsei and CB? How's their storyline going?
I think she's going to become an idol and he's going to be her manager. And they're going to get a spin-off show.
Ooh. Oh. What's the title of the spin-off show?
It's called She's an Angel and He's a Blockhead.
Aww. She's an angel and he's a blockhead. Wow. Did you Google that, Jaren? Are you cheating?
I'm just freewheeling at the moment. ATM.
All right, cool. Just making sure. Just don't hop on Google and Google that anytime soon. Just in case some results might come up and tell you if you were right.
It'll be a Photoshop that you made and you tagged.
And I'll make it so it's like the background of your laptop, so that you just open it up and you're like.
I'll be like, oh, my angel, and I'm talking to CB though.
All right. That sounds fun. I'm down for double wedding. Like, why have one wedding when you can have two?
Two for the price of one.
Two for the price. I mean, Han Gil already proposed at their wedding. He might as well just really take the cake.
You might as well not let you two have anything.
Yeah. He might as well adopt their child once it's.
You know what? Yeah, let's just beat him at everything. They should get married first.
Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, everyone go out for refreshments, or you can stay and watch Han Sung and Yudu's wedding or whatever. But
incredible.
Oh God. All right. Well, we will only know if double wedding happens when we watch the episode, which is right now. So we'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm Kara, and I think I like rom-coms.
I'm like Jaren, right? And I'm into shaming people for holding hands in public, I think.
Okay. I don't know why, but I kind of think maybe we both like it's something like hot drinks and hot boys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And this might be just kiss already?
This is gonna sound like it's a lead-in, but it's not. This is actually something that happened last night. And I don't know why I'm saying it's gonna sound like a lead-in. Maybe just because anytime someone is like, so I had a dream last night, it sounds a little fake.
Oh yeah, I automatically assume they're doing a bit.
But I woke up this morning with vivid memory of my dream. And I don't really know why, because I don't know why this speaks to me. But all I remember was being in like an arena, watching a game. Not sure what game. Not sure why. Because what was more important was that wanted to go get snacks. So me and somebody walked out of the arena. And we were walking past what I guess is the bathrooms. And before we could cross them, two Transformers, like the movie, walked in front of us and entered the bathroom. And when I looked up at the bathroom tag, instead of saying like boy, girl, or like family or whatever, it said Decepticon.
No. And
I looked at yes. And I looked at who I was with and I was like, yo, there's Decepticons here. We gotta go. And we started running. And I'm like, some stuff happened after that, but I'm so stuck on the fact that like the Transformers weren't like shocking. Like seeing them, I was like, oh, it's whatever. But it wasn't until they entered a bathroom marked for Decepticons, because I guess in this dream universe we separate between Decepticon and I don't even know what the good guys
Autobots.
are called, because I don't think I've seen a Transformers movie in full. Just kidding, I've seen Bumblebee, but
like I've gotta say, my favorite part about that is that there's a scene in the first Transformers movie where Bumblebee pees on John Turturro. So I just imagine that,
what?
like, in the subconscious, there's some association between, like, shape-shifting robots and water sports.
Oh my god. Oh, I honestly, like, don't... It's so stuck in my mind. Just, like, those are Decepticons, guys. We gotta go.
Like, I can just picture the two restrooms with, like, the Autobot and Decepticon symbol on the door.
I think the best part is that I don't know what the second bathroom said. All I know is that one of them said Decepticon. And after I saw that, I was like, we gotta get out of here. We gotta go. That's
so good, man. It's like a tiny urinal cake robot who just transforms.
Oh my god. Anyway, yeah, that's like not related to Coffee Prince at all. I just kind of wanted to tell you.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
I feel like we should just start talking about the episode. Like, that's
okay, yeah, no, let's... It doesn't even, like, relate. It's just, like, we just wanted to let you guys know.
Just for your information.
Oh my god, I can't breathe. Okay, no, yeah, let's do it. Hey guys, episode 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back. We watched it. We did it. Oh wow. In my head, I was like, you gotta say the thing where you say, like, episode 15 and then episode 16. But I don't know. I like, thought about it and I was like, I don't know. Should I say that? Am I doing it? Am I doing the bit too much? Like, is it, you know?
I don't know. I can't tell if we're going too hard or not hard enough.
You know what? Now that you say it like that, you can never go too hard enough. So this time, we watched episode 16. Oh my god. Anyone tuning in is going to be like, what?
Yeah, for all of our friends who started on episode 16.
That's right. They're going to be like, are they okay? And yeah, we're fine.
I'm sort of not okay because, like, I've had all of my predictions just completely proven wrong over the course of the following episode, but it's never been every prediction that I had was immediately destroyed in the opening shot. Like, this is the fastest 0 to wrong that I've ever experienced recording this show.
It was the opening I literally, when I started the episode, I was like, oh, that's right. There was a wedding or whatever. Right. And everything was fine. But then Hangil comes up and he whispers to his mom, Grandma's in the hospital. And I was like, oh, that's right. Grandma, like, collapsed.
I just love that, like, they didn't even... The wedding maybe got postponed for 40 minutes. Like, it's still sunlight out. And they're like, all right, we gotta do this. Everybody smile. We're gonna go visit Grandma afterwards, but smile. I like... In Yuju is kind of like tearing up, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess because it's like her wedding or whatever, I don't know. And then I was reminded that Grandma collapsed like 20 minutes ago, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's such a kick in the teeth because it's like it's like you're in the middle of a play and somebody has to run off stage and use the bathroom immediately, and you're just kind of like,
oh god,
oh no, we'll get you, like trying to keep the play going.
I like, yeah, no, yeah, what a, like, I don't even know what to say about this, except for, like, oh.
Well, it gets worse, because, like, they're seated at a table together, Eun-chan and Hangul is kind of, like, talking to Mama over her shoulder, and Eun-chan is, like, asking him things, and he's ignoring her, and I'm like, we're back to this. It's like, it's a flat circle. Every time anything happens, you can be sure that Hangul will ignore Eun-chan for the first little bit.
He's going to be a baby. And you know what? At least at this point, it's becoming predictable. Like, we know the cycle. We know it starts with, like, ultimate baby, like, I can't hear you level. And then it kind of progresses down to, like, angry fighting baby who says illogical things. But it's because he's, like, sad. And then all of a sudden he kind of transitions into like, well, not talking to the person in question, but talking to somebody else. I'm going to let them know that I understand the situation logically. And then he finally graduates to talking to his girlfriend about what's on his mind and being a logical adult. And it's like, you know what? At least we get there, you know?
Yeah, it's just, that's the start of the whole, like, weird mood for this episode for me, is, like, the constant recidivism into the silent treatment. And then a minute and 30 seconds later, they're married, it's over, it's done.
Oh my gosh, yeah, this wedding is so fast. And I guess I, like, get it, because, you know, we're watching a TV show. It's not like they were going to make us sit through the entire wedding, but, no, it just feels like it happens in 2 seconds. Like, the whatever, what's the name of the person who marries people? I don't know.
The smart man, the bishop, the
smart bishop man walks up and goes like, well, it's official, and then walks away.
He does just kind of wander off, doesn't he? He's like, sorry I'm late. I left my car double parked. I'll you guys are married, but I'll be back for the food.
you only really needed me here for like 5 minutes, right?
I charged by the minute.
Yeah. Every minute you need me here, that's another, I don't know, like 25 cents?
I'll do it for 1 stick of gum.
Yeah.
So from the wedding, we cut over to Unchan's house, and she's there with Mama, and going along with sort of the theme from last episode of Mama, like, taking charge of her part in the situation, and not sort of letting Hangul's family and him decide everything. She finally, like, sits down with Unchan and is like, hey, for real, like, you will be okay, like, I give you permission to get married, and also, like, your sister and I will be fine. Like, you shouldn't have to live your life solely concerned with other people.
Yeah, she lets her know that she's got, like, she's like, I can just get the deposit on the house, and then, like, we'll be fine, you know? We'll just move into, like, a 1 bed, 1 bath, and he just, like, you go get married. It's all good. Like, don't even worry about it. And Unchan is like, I can't not worry about it, though, Mom.
Ugh.
I don't think you understand. I can't just, like, turn off my worry about my family. Which, very logical response on her part.
Yeah, it's sort of like the hardest part of this arc, I guess, is watching everybody encourage Unchan to do what it is that she wants, and Unchan's only response being like, no, I have glorious purpose and responsibility that I must attend to.
Yeah.
And then paralleling the conversation between Unchan's mom and Unchan, we have Hangyul and his mom talking at the hospital. And the sort of nugget at the center of this scene was confirming what I had already suspected, I think, last episode about how Hangyul is in a rush to get married because he wants his grandma to see it. He, like, wants to give her that peace of mind. Because, like, the inciting incident for the show is that, like, she is grappling with this fatal illness, and also her playboy, rich grandson, like, is not settling down or hasn't met anybody. So he kind of wants to bring that arc to a close before she passes.
He's like, I looked at the plot of the show, and I really just kind of feel bad about how my character is introduced.
He goes to her and he's like, Granny, what's my character arc?
No, but yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I didn't really think about how this all kind of ties in with the beginning.
From there, we go to the Hansung, the couple house now, because they are full on married.
That's right.
And
they're married.
They do the classic, like, waking up alone angle, where, like, you look at it and you're like, we don't know that Yuju's not there, but we know that Yuju's not there because they're not showing her.
Okay, and, like, I know that this is, like, a thing, but I just feel like of all the couples they could have done it with, maybe the one where, Yuju was kind of, like, constantly leaving, maybe not the best time to do the, like, Hansung wakes up all by himself. Is Yuju there? Because I feel like the first time I watched this for a second, for a split second, because it turns very cute soon, I was like, oh god. Really? Right after they got married?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I had the same reaction. I wrote, like, very early on, like, this is, like, day 1 of what would normally be the honeymoon phase, I guess. And it's just like, oh, nope, where's my wife? But it turns out she's just, like, spoiling him with breakfast on her way to a new project.
I literally wrote, like, Hangul kind of being a big baby. Hansung also kind of being a big baby, but, like, a cuter one, I guess.
Like a cute baby that needs food.
Yeah, he's like, Yuju, where are you? And he just, like, keeps, like, yelling her name until she's, like, in front of him being like, what?
That is very, like, toddler-esque. Like, I've woken up alone and I'm going to wander around screaming until I'm fed. But Yuju says she's going to start... I wanted to bring up Yuju's project that she's starting on because it ends up being a lot more important than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was just like a throwaway line, but she talks about working on a project for UNICEF.
Yeah.
And he's immediately very concerned about, like, hey, you're pregnant, take it easy. Because she's, I guess, been shown to be a workaholic type.
Yes, she has very much been shown to, like, work herself to exhaustion. She loves what she does, and sometimes she sacrifices her health. So Han Sung's concern, while I guess maybe just because of the way that it's worded and the way that we've known him to be in the past, at first feels very much like, I don't know, there was like a split second where I was like, Han Sung, chill out. But then when I thought about it, I was like, oh no, he's absolutely right. Yuju totally will just like work herself into exhaustion, and maybe that's not what she should be doing right now.
Han Sung has been shown to be, like, suspicious about everything, so I was a little uncomfortable when I was like, wait, he has a point this time.
Oh no, Han Sung's motives made sense for once. What are we gonna do? To be fair, the last couple of episodes, we have kind of been, like, slowly but surely climbing onto this Han Sung train. Because he has actually been making sense and doing good things. And it's so weird.
It's an interesting case of where it seems like being Yuju is good for him because when he is with her, he's not making all these sort of like weird, questionable things that make us apprehensive of him. Like when things are good, they are good. And it's only because we know how things are when they are bad that we still have any apprehension.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we cut to Coffee Prince, and the first thing I wrote was, can we please not do this at our workplace, like, for once? Because I understand that they all have to work every single day because they don't have a lot of staff. But I just, like, why is it that every single time we argue it has to be in our place of work? Like, can maybe one time it not be? Just once. Just one, please.
I feel like they like the audience. It's kind of like a gladiatorial situation.
They must love they honestly, we're gonna see much more of this, but this episode, I feel like they were just reveling in the audience. The audience was more involved than they've ever been before. And I was like, what? That's how I felt.
So at the shop, the silent treatment is ongoing. Eun-chan is actually kind of like handling it well, because Hangil walks up to her and she says, hey, I texted you 5 times to call me when you were free, and he just kind of responds like, let's talk. And I wrote,
I waited until we were specifically at work for this.
Yeah, I waited until I could no longer avoid it. But I wrote down that he's not trying to understand, which is something that I'm very upset that I keep writing this late into the show, because that was like very early on. Like, he was more interested in being upset than he was about sort of finding a resolution. It was like he needed to live in that moment, I guess. But I think we've seen that Eun-chan is getting way better at handling it, because it's not like she's the one who's been out of shape. And
yeah,
I'm glad that she's not, like, responding with fire sort of situation.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this just a second ago, how Hangul seems to have, like, this cycle of how he goes through things. And it, like, slowly progresses. He basically grows up in the span of, like, 2 days. Because he goes from just being, like, absolute baby to reaching the finale where he's like, I am now logical adult and will handle my problems by talking with people, and to being understanding. And, I mean, to his credit, like, he obviously does try to understand Eun-chan's perspective, because we see that later when he talks to, like, his grandma, and he basically is, like, kind of voicing, like, hey, I actually do understand what she's been telling me, and I'm having difficulty kind of, like, reacting to it, but, like, I do know what's going on. It just kind of sucks that, like, initially, when he talks to Eun-chan about any of it, he just kind of, like, zooms in onto, like, nothing is my fault, everything is fine, I'm big baby, even though we can tell, because later on we see that's obviously not what's going on in his head. He knows the situation. He's doing his best to, like, actually work it out. I just kind of wish he could vocalize that instead of just immediately being like, do you want to break up with me? Is that what this is? If I say we break up, will everything be fine? Like, meh, you don't love me because you don't want to marry me. And it's like, Hangul, chill. Just chill.
I think that's a very valid take, actually. I think we could go back and actually apply that framework of Hangul is listening. He just lacks the ability to respond in the moment, so he chooses not to.
Yeah. I just, like, it's always so jarring to me to see him go from talking to Un-chan and responding like everything is going in one ear out the other, like he doesn't hear what she's saying at all, and like he only cares about his point, and then immediately going and talking to somebody else, and when they reflect any kind of, like, we'll get into this, but he goes and talks to his grandma later on in this episode, and she's kind of reiterating the things that he was saying, being like, oh, well, like, does she not care about you? She doesn't want to marry you? And he immediately is like, well, no, that's not the situation.
He's just a contrarian.
Like, yeah. He just, like, maybe he just can't admit it. I don't know. I mean, it's fun to watch. It definitely gives me that drama. But I feel like if he was a person in my life and I was dealing with him, I would need to, like, shake him by the shoulders and be like, I know this isn't how you feel. Can you please tell me that you've heard me for once?
Listen, you incredibly handsome 2x6 brick, you need to stop.
Listen up, you sexy man.
Listen up, you sexy wall.
I know that you can hear me. I know you're not made of brick.
You well-dressed old growth pine.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
Bottom line, Hangul, great TV, needs some work.
Yeah, good TV, bad BF.
As a companion. Yeah.
The takeaway for Un-chan in this is that she basically is like, I need to know that I can do this myself. Like, being an important part of the situation to her is, I guess, beyond taking handouts, just knowing that she can get herself to the place she wants to be. Which is, like, it's a beautiful, simple, relatable motive. And it's also very idealistic. But we'll talk more about that once we get to the meeting with Granny.
We're really just jumping around this time. It's very hard to go chronological and everything ties into itself so well.
And then Ha-Rim shows up, doesn't he? And just starts being a nuisance again.
That he loves to do it. That's his purpose, I think, really. I wrote in all caps, Ha-Rim, not now.
I think he literally does halt the progress of their conversation because I wrote, this talk is not done.
Like, Ha-Rim, wait. No, we're not finished.
And then he goes and, like, meets up with Mr. Hong, and they're giving their hot takes about the new drama because they are also uninvited spectators, I guess.
Yeah. Not only the customers of Coffee Prince, also all the staff just have to watch this happen. Actually, I found it really interesting when he went to talk to Mr. Hong because I feel like it's much more common for when the two of them share opinions. Mr. Hong's opinion tend to kind of line up with what Un-chan is saying, and Ha-Rim's opinion tends to line up with Ha-Gil's. But this time it was switched, because Mr. Hong was kind of voicing like, oh, you know, like, getting married and whatever, like, they could just do it. And Ha-Rim is kind of being like, what's the big deal? Just wait. Why get married? He's also coming from the Playboy perspective of like, why tie yourself down? But it was just kind of funny to see him kind of echoing, like, what Un-chan wants right now, and Mr. Hong echoing what Hang-gil wants.
I think that's a cool observation, because they start out where Ha-Rim is very much, like, Hang-gil's friend and doesn't know the other group, and then Mr. Hong is shown to be, like, very much Un-chan's friend and doesn't know the other members of the group. So I like that they've demonstrated through this difference of opinion that, like, the group has mingled, and that where Mr. Hong was always fighting with Hang-gil early on, like, now they can see each other's side.
One of my favorite things about this show will always be just, like, the the fun relationship that comes out of all of these Coffee Prince employees. I really do just love to see all of the connections between Harim and CB, Seunggi, Mr. Hong, Hongil, and Unchan. Very nice. I love it. I love it.
And then this whole, I guess you'd call it an argument, is kind of brought to close by Unchan being like, hey, how is grandma? And Hongil just ignores her and is like, hey, if you don't marry me, I'm going to break up with you.
Yeah. Unchan is like, hey, remember how we went to that wedding and your grandmother collapsed and it was very worrying? I just want to know if everything's okay. And Hongil is like, no. I'm still in baby mode. We can't just jump out of baby mode, Unchan. You know how it works.
Unchan walks up to him and is like, hey, I just want to know. I know we're fighting. Could you just let me know that grandma is okay? And Hongil is like, my wife says what?
Oh my god. Also, the best part about this scene for me was the fact that Unchan walks out of this like closet that they have upstairs, and I had no idea there was a closet there, let alone a closet with stairs, because she's walking downstairs carrying supplies, and I was like, how long has this closet been here? Because I don't remember it, and I'm like, have we gone this whole show without seeing this closet? Is this the first time, or am I just, like, super forgetful?
No, you see, you're picking up on something very important here, because much like The Shining, the Coffee Prince building was designed with impossible geometry to confuse and upset the people watching.
I was so sure there were only 2 floors, but apparently there's a secret third one? Why haven't we known about it? They could have been having their arguments up there.
You know, you're right. They're just gonna cut one day to, like, the floor that we didn't know about, and there's gonna be, like, a pool table and, like, a bar, and we're gonna be like, how long has this been here?
Why haven't we been using this the whole time? Why instead have we been relegating our arguments to the upstairs party table and the kitchen alcove? Like...
Oh... And then we cut to big sister, little sister conversation time, which very quickly becoming like a highlight for me of these last few episodes is the Unsei hot takes that we get.
I love that she's just like, when Unchan is not able to be like emotionally adamant about something, Unsei is like, I will do it for you. And she just goes off being like, who does he think he is? I cannot like what? How? I'm gonna what the heck? And I'm like, I love you, Unsei. Thank you. Because I, too, sometimes just need somebody else to be mad for me.
It really reinforces my theory that people learn about how to handle social problems vicariously. So, like, this is a 17-year-old telling her, like, 24-year-old sister who's dating her 30-year-old boyfriend, like, oh, that is so unreasonable for him to put that expectation on you just because of his... hang-ups about his grandmother, when he knows very well that you have this drive to do what you think is right. And it's like, yes, 17-year-old little sister, you are now emotionally enlightened.
Oh god, I love it. It's so Unsei kind of like just like really, this episode, I feel like she more than anything has shown us that she learned how romance works from shoujo manga, which we know to be true because we know full well that she in fact has read Hanayori Dango. So
yes.
But like, she also interacts with CB a lot, and just like, it's so obvious that like she does not have romantic experience herself that much, save for what's happening with CB, which is, you know, it very much feels like 2 kids who don't know what they're doing. But just, like, the way that she talks and the way that she acts, it's like, yes, all of her experience is vicariously through media because of just the way that she thinks that things work. Which, honestly, actually, in this part, the way things that she was setting did feel very level-headed. Like, they felt like she actually had a grasp on the situation. But I guess maybe when it comes to herself, she's like, okay, obviously in romance, we have to have, like, I have to say this line specifically or else it won't work because that's what they do in the movies.
That's very true. I think everybody's relationship advice is the one thing they can't apply to themselves.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I feel like everyone I've talked to kind of goes through that same thing. So then Unsei actually like kind of goes off into the bedroom after like giving Unchan her like heated support. She then goes into the bedroom and is like beep 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 on her. This is her phone. You can't see, but I'm holding up my hand right now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my phone.
Hi, Unsei, like, I'm your phone.
Hey, but she goes like beep beep beep, and then she is calling, and who is she calling? It's Hongil, and she's like, "Hey, listen, I need to meet with you." And Hongil is like, oh, okay. Do you wanna just like come to the cafe? Or the first thing he says is right now, and she's like, no, not right now. It's like 10 p.m.
He's like grabbing his keys.
Later. Yeah. He's like, he's so used to Unchan just like kind of deciding to appear somewhere that he's like, no, yeah, right now. And Unsei is like, no, I'm going to bed. I meant tomorrow. And then he's like, okay, come to the cafe. And she's like, no, because then Unchan will know. And he's like, oh, this is like a secret. Okay, I got you. No worries. She's gonna be at barista school tomorrow, so it's all good. And I just like love the contrast of her being like, man, screw this guy, to 2 seconds later being like, hi, Hongil, can we talk?
There's something really beautiful about television writing that I've come to love, which is you establish like characters and their bubbles, and then you get the rare pairs where one person from one bubble reaches out to somebody else that they're not like directly connected to. And it was really cool to have Hongil answer the phone, and she's like, this is Unsei. And he's like, oh, the angel. And it's like, because that's how he knows of her is through CB and Unchan.
She's so, like, her immediate reaction to hearing him call her angel is like, oh, god damn it. You can see that she's like, I'm gonna smack CB next time I see him.
So good. But after that, Hongil just kind of like sad brushes his teeth.
You know, loves to do it.
I loved seeing the Sergeant Tamama doll in the background again from like a bajillion episodes ago when he tried to sew the eyes on it. He was like, I know how to do manual labor.
That's right. He was like, I can sew. Okay, I know how sewing works. And he didn't. But it's good. That's true. That was really cute. I didn't actually pick up on that. I'm glad that you did, because that's cute. I love to hear it.
Back at Coffee Prince, where everybody comes for fresh drama daily.
Of course.
CB is also pissed because
yeah, he's
blaming Harim, isn't he, for like giving him the bad advice that left him lonely.
Oh, it's so funny because he just kind of walks up to the counter and he puts the tray down and he just kind of like shakes it a little angrily and looks at Harim, and Harim is like, what? And he's like, I need 2 lattes. And Harim is like, okay. And then CB is like, you messed up everything, okay? I was supposed to get a girlfriend with your advice. Everything was supposed to be fine, and it's all your fault that it went wrong. And then Seung-gi, rightfully so, kind of pops in and is like, yeah, I don't know why you were taking advice from him. He's literally the only one here that doesn't have, like, a girlfriend.
Very true.
It's like, oh yeah, that's true.
God.
I really love the way that CB just kind of walked up, and instead of immediately being like, I'm mad, he just like puts this tray down and then just kind of like taps it twice loudly.
He's such a baby.
And Howard is like, what?
His body doesn't know how to process rage.
He just kind of like smacks something twice. And then everyone's like, oh, CB is mad, okay.
Doesn't CB yeet Harim out of his stool in this scene?
After you know, he gives him his 2 cents and Seung-gi comes in and roasts him a little bit. CB then walks over to Harim and manually picks him up and carries him out, as we've seen that he just loves to do. Oh man. Yeah, a very good way to end that like section was just CB picking him up.
Yeah, and then contrasting like the weird tension that's going on between every character and every other character. We get like another of our 3-second insight into Seung-gi's life when he goes to visit Yuko and the apartment is just fucking empty. And this was one of those moments during the show where I'm like, oh, they didn't just like threaten that she would disappear if he kept visiting. they straight up went through with it, and she is gone.
Yeah, I'm honestly like, when I think about it, I'm like, wow, I'm actually really impressed, like, how much I feel like I know about this story and how kind of invested I was to know what happens with it when literally all we ever knew about it was 3 seconds each episode. Like,
yeah, you're
one
right.
scene that wasn't even like a lengthy scene where there was like a lot of conversation or anything. Like, they hardly spoke, hardly like anything ever happened, yet we know so much. And just seeing him walk into this deserted apartment was like, oh god.
You
Oh,
really
no.
they do an excellent job of we don't see them expositing, but we just see them like sort of existing together in the same space. And then we also see the moments where that facade kind of drops. Where they go from being like,
Yeah.
haha, I brought fish, to like, if you keep coming here, I will run away without warning again. And he's like, I brought fish. And it's like, oh, God.
I mean, he reflects on it later too. He's like, I'd kind of thought in my head that like everything was fine if we just kind of like kept doing what we were doing, and I was wrong, and like that happens, and it's like, man, Sungi, I just kind of want him to be happy. I feel like
his attitude towards it is like probably the most interesting part, because he, very much like Mr. Hong, I think, is just sort of glad that it happened. Like, he spent all this time looking and he found her and she's gone again, but like the time that he did get to see the child and her, like, you could tell it was very important to him, and he's not like freaking out, throwing a shit fit, being angry in response. He's just kind of like contemplative.
Man, what a good character.
Again, probably
really
the fewest
like
lines of anybody in the series as well.
Literally. Wow. Shout out to our hot waffle boy. We love him. We respect him.
Except when he's putting tomatoes on things. I do love him.
No, that is the one time. But it's okay. He can make mistakes sometimes. We just won't acknowledge them.
So we finally get to see what happened to Grandma after last episode.
Yeah.
We cut to the hospital where Hangyul is visiting Grandma, and she just starts laying into him. It feels like as soon as her HP gets above a certain threshold and there's no longer that like red flashing noise that lets you know you're about to get ganked, she's like, "Why are you alone? Like, where's Unshan right now?" And he's like, "Oh, we're fighting. I didn't bring her."
It's I love, I mean, like, Grandma has made us very frustrated the like last couple episodes just because of like her sudden distaste for Unchan that felt like, Grandma, but why? But I really do love her as a character just because like it's so funny to see her, like, we know that she like collapsed, she's in the hospital, and she just kind of like slowly wakes up. She looks at Hangyul and she's like, oh, okay, you're here. And then she's like, where's the one that you bring sometimes? The one, you know the one. And Hangyul is like, well, like, me and Unchan are fighting. And she's like, okay, great, good for you. I want to see Unchan, though, so I don't understand why. Grandma, she just, like, does not care.
Grandma is, like, our audience surrogate. She just needs the resolution. She's, like, waking up semi-conscious and, like, I gotta know. So...
She's like, oh, you're fighting? Okay, well, stop, because not good for me, personally.
He, like, tries to give her some porridge, and she's like, give me some real food. I need to fix your relationship.
Oh my god, yeah. She's like, I need the energy to fix what you have ruined. And so... I do love her just because she... It's also just really nice to see a character who absolutely takes charge in their life no matter what. Like, she just doesn't let potential factors bog her down or anything. Like, she full force always goes towards what she wants. I feel like anytime you're watching, like, a show where you have a lot of this kind of back and forth between characters because they care about each other and they care about the things going on, sometimes it's just really nice to have a character who's like, okay, all that is great, however, I want this, therefore I'm going to do it. and that's the end of the, like, there's no back and forth. This is what I want, therefore I'm doing this.
Something that I really like a lot in the things that I read and watch is like having a bunch of characters who are proactive and a bunch of characters who are reactive, because I love, especially I think this is part of why Unchan is so compelling, is because she's kind of going from being this reactive character who has been put in a situation and is adapting to like keep everything normal, to now is the one who is going to disrupt the status quo in pursuing what she wants.
Aw, yeah. That is nice to see. I like the way that you put that.
Thanks.
Yeah. You're welcome. If you were in Coffee Prince, would you be a reactive or a proactive character?
I'd be like a fun... I'd be the janitor, I think. And I would just... every time somebody starts arguing, I'd go clean another room. So I'm only on screen for 10 seconds every episode, where I just put the mop back in the bucket and I dry my hands on my vest and then I walk upstairs.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love that. Oh my god.
I'm the only one. I'm just like well-adjusted, I guess, would be my bit.
That's so good. I feel like I'd be Unsei's friend who just kind of shows up for her to tell me what's going on and only ever hears the story from her perspective, so all I know is what Unsei says. And I'm like, what? That's so wild.
I love that for you.
Thank you. And then maybe one day I meet characters and I'm like, oh, you're, tall, sexy boss man. Hey, did you ever figure out the marriage thing? And they're like, what?
You're like, Unsei, I need the new volume of HYD, and also, how did your date with CD go?
Oh, it's so good. Oh man, we'll have to contact the writers and be like, hey, if you're planning on a reboot.
Yeah, if you need some OC self-insert characters.
Oh my god. Oh. Anyway, what's happening? We're talking about Grandma, right?
Yeah, we were talking about Grandma, and then she basically resolves to solve their relationship for them. And I think we have a quick cut to a diner scene between...
Oh, I do want to kind of highlight, actually, really quick, before surprise breakfast is what I called it in my notes. We do actually, in this scene, we get to see the transition of Hangul. He's kind of like graduating a little from the baby stage. Like maybe now he's more of a teenager talking to his grandma about his problems. Mm-hmm. And after literally minutes ago, seeing him be what is just kind of like big baby energy with Unchan, just like not listening at all and just kind of like being super stubborn about what he thinks and what he wants. He's now talking with Grandma, and he's like, Grandma, is just kind of like, I'm fixing this relationship like this, and that. And we see Hangul being like, well, but it's not that simple. Like, Unchan, she's really independent, and she's like, she's the oldest child in her family, and like, she has to take care of her family and stuff, and like, she wants to be a barista. And we're like, so Hangul, you do know, yes? You do know what's going on? Yes? Mm-hmm. So can we see some of that?
Very true. This is like the kind of moment where they let slip that like, yeah, Hangul is actually taking in and remembering the things that are important to Unchan in these arguments. Yeah.
Then anyway, yes, surprise breakfast. Unchan is on her way to barista school, as we were told when Hangul was on the phone with Unsei. And she's literally just gets there, and Hangul just kind of like darts out an arm and grabs her really quick, and she's like, and he's like, hey, I want breakfast. And she's like, I school? And he's like, no, breakfast time. And then they go and they get some noodles.
Oh, I'm sorry, that just reminded me of like being a kid and waking up so late for school that you missed the bus, but like your parent is cool. And so on the way to school, they also stop at McDonald's, and they're like, you don't need first period anyway, you're 8. And so you come into first period with like your steaming bag of hash browns, and everybody's like, God damn it.
You just, there were actually a couple of times I think I tried to miss the bus just because I wanted to be driven to school.
Oh.
Right? Cute.
So that was kind of the vibe, but not really, because there's a lot of like yo-yoing still going on. I say yo-yoing because the last thing we saw from them was like this kind of argument at Coffee Prince, like very cold argument as well, not like super flared up for their standards. And then they're just kind of acting like everything's fine, which I hate kind of when that happens, but I also understand that like once those emotions fade, you're able to handle these situations calmly, and it's only weird for us as viewers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that. So next up, Unsei is at Coffee Prince. She rolls up and she's like, I'm here. That's not really what she says. But she kind of like walks in and immediately she's met with like Harim and CB. And CB is just kind of like, oh, Angel? And she's like, where's the manager? And he's like, and he just like doesn't know what to do because she's here now. And he just really wants to talk to her. And she's like, I need to talk to your boss.
They have this conversation, and I remember thinking how kind of strange it was for the little sister to sort of intercede and basically reiterate what Un-chan had already been saying. It didn't feel like there was a lot of new information being presented, but I guess the benefit is that Hangul is seeing that like this is a perspective that is shared among that family, and this isn't just Un-chan sort of being self-righteous.
Yeah, I mean, no, she wasn't really presenting any new information, but I don't think that the point of her going there was to, like, try and tell him stuff. I think it was more, because the way that she was phrasing everything, it was like she was asking him. Like, she was like, hey, listen, like, I know you really want to marry her, but, like, can you please wait a couple of years? And I feel like just having that, like, her younger sister literally came to him and was just kind of like, so now he knows that, like, I mean, like you said, like, there's this shared perspective and this shared idea, but also just, like, I feel like hearing from her that, like, request of, like, listen, like, I am fine, like, y'all marriage, great, whatever, your relationship, but I'm asking that for the sake of our family and that, like, for the sake of just my sister, I would want you guys to wait a little bit because, you know, I plan to, like, do this. I'm trying to, I think I could get a job in something and, like, support our family and, like, this and that. And I think that just action of asking him was kind of, like, more potent than any information that she was giving him that was all pretty much information he'd already heard from Un-chan herself.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point about it being, like, it's kind of a maturity moment because you see that Unsei has, like, actively been planning, like, what do I do if Un-chan has to go away so that I can help support, instead of just kind of being, like, the money gremlin baby brat all the time.
Though we do love money gremlin Unsei, let it be known. As much as I love to see her maturity.
They also brought up something that I was glad about, where she's like, yeah, did you, like, tell my sister you were going to break up with her if she didn't marry you? And he was like,
oh my god.
Yeah, I was joking. And she's like, you were joking about that? Like, what's wrong with you? And that's also my reaction that I was having.
Aww. So after they have their chat, Unsei goes back downstairs and CB is still there. And I don't really remember what exactly he says, but I wrote down in very small letters, aw, CB. Aww. So I'm assuming that he essentially was like, hey, can we, like, maybe talk or something? Because that tends to be what he does. And that's not the end of their arc in this episode. So we'll come back to them anyway, but CB just really wants to talk to her, and I feel, part of me is like, well, I mean, CB, you did some stupid stuff, but he also got his advice from Harim, so I'm like, you know, he's just doing his best, and he's a little stupid in the head sometimes, but
CB, I think I've said before, is the perfect example of, like, damn, you're hard to love, but you're harder to hate.
Aw, I love him. But yeah, that, I feel like that sums him up so well.
The next thing I see on my notes is a playground. They go to the playground.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. We don't even have to wait. We cut right into Unsei and CB. That's good.
Yeah.
I really thought that was going to come up later in the episode, but you're totally right. It happens next.
It feels like a long time because it kind of sent me on a trip. I was like, why are they going to this playground for children? And then, like, my eyes shot open and I was like, it's because they are children. They are.
Okay, but reminder that I think they're like 17, 18.
Yeah, but they're babies.
Yeah, no, that's still... Yeah. I just, like, every time I see them, I immediately want them to be, like, 15. Even though CB looks like a grown man. Maybe it's just the way that they act.
It is, like, very much, I think, in the acting that makes them feel younger than they look.
Yeah.
Youthful.
But this is where I wrote down, Unsei's romance knowledge comes directly from shoujo manga. Because you can see that she's, like... crafted this storyline in her head, and she's like, this is exactly how it's gonna go. I'm gonna talk to CB, and he's gonna want me back, and I can't say that I want him back. I have to do this thing where I, like, say this line to him, and then turn away, and then look back. And it's like, it's so obvious that, like, and it's actually really cute. Because as she's walking away, we keep getting these shots of, like, when her back is to him, she's just, like, smiling really giddy. But then she turns around and she looks at him and she has this, like, I'm, like, upset and solemn look on her face. And it all resolves itself with him essentially being like, I'm sorry that I, like, went and tried to date this other girl. I still really like you and would like to date you. Yes, maybe please. And this was the time where if Unsei... in her romance knowledge about herself was more mature, would have been like, you're right, I also said some stupid stuff, but I do like you and I too would like to date. But she can't do that. She has to she has to act according to her wonderful shoujo storyline where she is the main character. And she has to be like, you can follow me if you want. And then start walking away. And
This was absolutely the moment that you were like, yeah, she learned everything she knows about love from shoujo manga. And I thought about this scene, and I was like, you're absolutely right. It's so on the head.
It's so funny. It's so cute. It's so unrealistic, but it's so cute.
This was also another scene where I want a little bit of behind-the-scenes info, because the scene gets slow-mo, and then it cuts after he picks her up and puts her on his shoulders, and they run back towards the swing set. But I feel like there wasn't enough time for him to stop or slow down before he runs her head right into the crossbar. It just felt like that was what was going to happen, and that's why they cut when they did.
Because they cut away, but they do cut back to them, like, being past the swings and kind of running around, and the swing is moving a little.
And her forehead looks real red
so
for
you
some
know
reason.
they hit that swing. Oh my god. I wonder if there is, like, cool behind the scenes
I'd be super into watching that.
Coffee Prince. I've never encountered it, but I'd love to see it. Anyway, now that we finally resolved one romance plot in this
we
freaking
cut
show,
over to Hong at the hospital.
Mr. Hong.
And
yeah.
Grandma is kind of getting more information about Un-chan, like, from Hong, who I guess she trusts, even though she just kind of verbally abuses him all the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, like, I don't see what the big deal about marriage is. And she's like, of course you don't. And I'm like, damn, what a burn.
Damn. So the rest of this episode, we kind of get introduced to this plot of, Grandma is like, so let me back up a little. In this scene, they're talking about Un-chan, and Mr. Hong makes this comment where he's like, you know, I would really love to see Un-chan just, like, go study abroad, you know, get to learn about being a barista from, like, in a different country that's, like, where they know about coffee, just kind of, like, really see her kind of live her dreams and then maybe come back and figure out where she wants to go from there. And in the rest of this episode, we're introduced to this plot where Grandma essentially hears that and is like, I could make it happen. And then she approaches Un-chan and is like, hey, you want to study abroad? Like, I can do that for you. And every time that I've watched this show, for some reason, I've remembered this end part of the plot as being, like, Grandma introduces the study abroad thing because she's trying to get Un-chan to go away. But it's actually Mr. Hong who plants that seed in her head. Like, it's not like she was like, oh, I just want Un-chan out of here, therefore I'm gonna, like, cook up this plan. For the first time, I think I'm realizing that Mr. Hong is the one who initially kind of, like, brings that idea up of, like, it'd be great for Un-chan to, like, go and study from, like, the masters and, like, you know, get to know about coffee and live her barista dreams. And I'm, like, I was kind of shocked because for the longest time, and I think a couple more times this episode, I realized that I was misremembering the way that, or not necessarily the way that the show goes, but, like, the intentions behind characters when they do certain things at the end of this show, because I really didn't think that, I don't know, I was, like, so sure that Grandma does all of this because she just kind of wants Un-chan out of here, and that it's more of a, like, vindictive thing to, like, I'm gonna get her away from my grandson. And I'm probably influenced a little by the genre itself, because that's not an uncommon thing. The mom or, like, grandma who doesn't like the future daughter-in-law tries to get her out by, like, giving her a great opportunity she can't refuse. But yeah, no, just kind of seeing Mr. Hong be the one to propose that idea, I was like, oh, I don't know why I missed that in the past, like, 4 rewatchings that I've done.
I do think it's very interesting, because when I watched this as a first-time viewer, I didn't really think about the ulterior motive of, like, this will get Un-chan away. I just thought that, like, I guess Grandma had seen and heard enough about Un-chan to be, like, sympathetic to her. I don't have the specific evidence in front of me, but I got the impression during one of these scenes later on that there was a parallel between Un-chan and Grandma in that they are both, like, hard-working people who overcame their circumstance. And I felt that the Grandma extending the offer to learn was sort of out of, like, not charity, but, like, respect, I would say.
Yeah, I got that too from this rewatching, and I don't know, I just, like, after feeling that, I was like, why for so long did I not, like, catch on to that? Like, why did I think that this was a vindictive thing? Like, and, I mean, I could chalk it up to maybe me watching this in middle school and just being like, this is a drama, and I'm in middle school, so I think
That's
stupid
absolutely
things.
what happens in
because
middle
that's
school.
What you do when you're in middle school, right? But yeah, no, it was kind of nice to have that, like, change of perspective, I guess, that I don't know if it's from me just... Maybe in the past I also didn't pay attention to these scenes because they didn't have Un-chan in them, and that was, like, all I cared about when I watched this when I was younger. But yeah, it was kind of nice to have that, like, realignment of perspective for me. So cool. Good to know that I'm, I don't know, older now, more mature. I don't know. I don't know what this means for me.
Mature.
I want it to mean a good thing. Yeah. More mature.
Then we get, like, one of the weirder parts of this episode for me, because I really just don't know how to feel about it, where Hansung is alone. He goes to visit Yuju at work and kind of discovers, like, she's been working late and she drank while very early on in the pregnancy, and it's this weird thing where, like, I don't have the perspective to be able to, like, comment on it, but, like, as an outsider, it just feels really, really weird that, like, this is an argument that you would have about drinking during pregnancy.
Yeah, I honestly, like, don't... I'm the same. I don't really have, like, the perspective on... I don't really know much about pregnancy.
Me neither. It's
haven't
icky.
really thought about it. You know, not really at a... Yeah, not at a stage in my life where I've been like, oh, I need to know, I don't know. So, yeah, no, I too didn't really know how to think, because part of me was like, yeah, probably not good, drink alcohol when pregnant with baby, and also overwork yourself to exhaustion. But also, like, I don't know. In my notes, all I wrote was, day 2 of marriage, and we're already fighting.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of, like, all I could rationalize myself.
I feel like, just to play devil's advocate, like, she's very early on. Like, I don't know if the evidence bears out that early on can cause problems to the unborn fetus. But I feel like from a writing perspective, this was done as sort of excessive justification, because we have Han Sung who is worried about it, and it would be, I think, valid enough for him to be worried about working late. But that's not sort of like a quantifiably bad thing. Like, working late, you could just be like, yeah, I work late. Like, that's something that I'm used to. Or we don't, like, know that it's terrible for the unborn child. But when you introduce that alcohol, it becomes like, okay, you are maybe not prioritizing the baby as much as you are prioritizing work. So it feels like it's done for us as the audience to be able to see Han Sung is justified.
Yeah, maybe.
Fair.
And I mean, it's kind of working. Like, I feel like in so many times I've seen Han Sung as justified, at least in the very recent past. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, just personally, I don't condone drinking while pregnant. I think I'll take that stance.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's a yeah.
And then we got to the fun dish pit at Coffee Prince. Back in our fun rom-com rom show.
Anyway, back to the com show drum.
The rom-com drum marathon.
Rom-com som.
But Unshin.
Tom, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I'm just trying to avoid like, Dom. Whoops. I'll be honest. It kept trying to come up, and I was like, no, we're not putting that. We're especially not going to put that right before I say mom. No, no.
We have Unshan getting advice from the only person who's really qualified to give it. I think, Sungi in the dish pit. And he...
Well, I feel like, okay, hold on. You can't take credit away from Mr. Hong, okay?
Yes, but I feel like Sungi being closer in age gives him the edge. They're both valid choices, but I would always go to somebody who's probably a little closer to my age.
Yeah, same. Actually, that's a good point. Okay, so Sungi first choice, and then Mr. Hong. And then honestly, I feel like I have to go for CB before Harim. I don't think
this is also the order of dateability in Coffee Prince. We're just doing both lists at once.
Yeah. They're really just one list, honestly.
They're always in that order. And she's sort of opening up again about her feelings towards the marriage thing and the fight with Hangil. And Sungi does something that I like a lot. This is something that I do a lot when people are talking to me. I make it all about myself. No, he rather than like tell her what to think or how he feels about her situation, he talks about a time when he was in a similar situation, and he brings up that his friend is no longer around, and he's like, I'm going to wait. And that's his takeaway, and he seems happy with it. And I think he was very smart to be like, I am happy waiting for this person, even though they are kind of making it difficult, because it parallels to Unchan, like, yes, I can pursue what I want and also wait and still feel that that is a good decision.
Man, I love Sungi.
He's very good.
He's so good. Big fan. Man, I'm gonna have to look back at my favorite characters list, because like Sungi is climbing up pretty rapidly. I don't think anybody can ever beat Jinji or Sweeper.
I forgot.
You forgot that Jinji is our favorite character in Coffee Prince?
I did. You never see him because he's always working on top of one of the tables.
He's very busy. Anyway, and then Grandma calls and is like, hey, Unchan, come here. And Unchan is like, okay. And she does.
Welcome to the best scene of the show.
Oh my god. We cut to Grandma's office, and Hangil is there, and they're talking. And it's just so good to see Unchan kind of like roll up, and Grandma's like, excellent. Unchan is here. Come here, Unchan.
Now we can begin.
And Hangil is like, Wait, Grandma, why isn't Jen here? And Grandma's like, shush, Hangul. It's time for the adults to talk.
Grandma is like all business, straight negotiating. She very plainly states like these are the facts of the case at hand, and she offers for Unchan to study abroad as basically part of the program that she uses to invest in her employees.
Yeah. This was the moment that hit home for me, like, oh, I don't know why all this time I thought that Grandma was just trying to separate them, because she obviously sees where Unchan is coming from and, like, wants to support her dream. And it's kind of sweet because Unchan is like, I'm not really an employee of, like, whatever the name of the company. I think it's, like,
Dongin,
or something. Yeah, yeah. But Grandma's just kind of like, listen, 2 years, Italy, do it. Like, here you go. And Unchan, like, you can kind of see her just looking at the papers like, oh.
It's a very good scene because Hangul is like, he doesn't like having the tables turned on him. He's super surprised, super aggro about it. He's basically shouting what you were saying earlier. Like, he's repeating the reasons why Unchan has told him she doesn't really want to end this current situation and go study abroad. And Grandma is just kind of like taking it in and responding and being like, they'll be okay. Like, what? And the only thing Unchan really says is like, wouldn't it be better to go to one of your employees? Like, I don't actually work for you. Which, like, arguably, yeah. I think we could make the point that Coffee Prince is sort of under the Dongin Foods umbrella, and therefore it would be completely reasonable for Unchan.
Yeah, I was under the impression that she kind of totally was an employee of the company, but, like, I don't really know how business works, so...
Yeah, I've never thought about... I've never been in a relationship long enough to be like, I'm going to have a business, and I need to know whether or not it's okay to drink while I'm having my business.
Oh my god.
So there's... The great thing about this was that, like, I was really just expecting Unchan to be like, no, this is even worse than if my boyfriend was doing it, like, my boyfriend's grandma's company doing it for me. But she's like... Okay, well, if I was gonna do it, then what about this? And then Hangul's like, you're considering it when it's from her, but not from me? Like,
yeah. He jumps straight into it. He picks up on that immediately. It was kind of funny to see. He goes from... Because there's the time earlier where he talks to Grandma, and Grandma's like, just get married. And he's like, well, here are all of Unchan's reason why she can't do this, this, and that. And he's, like, very calm about it, very, like, I understand what's going on. But then in this scene, when he's kind of presented with the idea that, like, those values that she kind of has may be able to be kind of, like, shifted in importance because there's something potentially more important on the horizon for her. And he's like, wait, hold on. What happened to you guys' family? Remember your sister? Do you remember your sister? Your mom? Okay, your mom is there. Unchan can't do this because she's got her mom. And and it's like, oh no.
It really... this is what I meant earlier when I was talking about, like, the idea of wanting to do everything on your own is very idealistic. And I liked that Unchan as a character is, like, when this once-in-a-lifetime sort of opportunity comes along, she's not immediately dismissive, even though she's basically going back a little bit on what she said in front of the person she said it to, who is also her partner. But, like, she is able to, like, recognize that, like, maybe... part of success is accepting the good things that come your way, even if you didn't necessarily go through the regular channels, I suppose.
Yeah. I, as somebody who oftentimes also tries to do everything by myself, I'll admit it. But as someone who kind of has that a bit in common with Unchan, I feel like if somebody came to me and was like, hey, do you want to go study abroad 2 years doing basically your dream job and just kind of like really advancing your potential career path and just kind of like, all expenses paid, don't worry. I feel like I too would be like, now this bit of help is a good bit of help.
This is a real dealery-do, huh?
Like,
No, it's exactly that, and I think I'm a little bit different from Unchan in that I'm like, you you aren't wrong for taking advantage of the circumstances that you've been given. Like, it's more about what are you willing to do to succeed, and does that still make success worth it? And I was very glad that Unchan is like, I would be kind of dumb to just kind of walk away from this right now.
She's like, this is a pretty good deal. I can't.
She's like flipping through the pages, like,
Ugh. So then they drive over to Coffee Prince because they still have work, apparently.
Yeah, this happened like on their lunch hour.
I'll be honest, I'm just kind of like not sure how the hours system works at this cafe, because I really don't know when people are supposed to be on the clock and when they're off. But apparently we're back on, and I wrote down, why did that feel like the most reckless parking job? Because we get this shot of them turning in to like part in Han Gyul's favorite spot, which is just like right in front of the entrance to Coffee Prince, where only his car goes and nobody else's.
You're right. He's just parking on the sidewalk to the restaurant.
They just kind of like speed in there, and then he just like pulls up, and there's like customers sitting at a table. And he just parks right in front of them, and I'm like, is this a smart thing to do? Are we sure this is? And he does it every time, but maybe just because of the way that they drove in, that was kind of shaky and kind of speedy. I was like, why do we do this every day? What?
Why are we still here?
Why are we still here? So then, later on in the day, we actually have Mom come, and she pays Unchan a visit. This is Unchan's mom. I know that more than one person in this series have a mom, but specifically Unchan's mom comes and visits Unchan. And they have a nice, very sweet exchange. She brings her food. She's like, I heard you'd be working late, so got you some dinner. And I'm like, oh.
It was very cute. Like, we talked earlier about, like, stopping to McDonald's on the way to school. This is like stopping at McDonald's in the middle of school and getting lunch dropped off by your parent. Yeah, they sort of go into, like, Unchan admitting, like, yeah, they put this contract in front of me, and boy, did I really want to go. And Mom's like, then go. And then Unchan sort of teases her by being like, oh, you just want me to be gone so you can date Mr. Koo. And Mom's like, what? That old man?
She's like, no, he's our neighbor, Unchan, okay?
He lives next to us. I could never.
I could never, okay? He's a butcher, okay?
Okay.
It's very good to see. I love that everybody is getting their chance to visit Coffee Prince this episode.
Yeah, I like it. I like seeing people go places they usually don't.
Meanwhile, Han Gyul is laying outside of his apartment, just kind of like playing with a Lego, being like, whoosh, and then he's also reminiscing a little bit. But more importantly, he's taking the Lego and he's going like,
yeah, more importantly is the Lego. But we also see him realizing that in the time that he's known Unchan, her dreams and her expectations for her own life have changed dramatically. And I'm really glad that they took a moment to like stop and actually point that out, because I forgot that very early on in the series, she basically says like, yeah, my dream would probably be to like provide for my mom and sister and like make sure that they can both do what they want and like have nice things.
Throughout this entire show, we've gotten to see Unchan find something that she's really passionate about, and it's so nice to kind of get this like quick kind of like, yeah, and not only has she found something that she enjoys and that she's passionate about and that she really wants to do, but that means that her dreams and her kind of like hopes for the future have changed. She no longer just kind of wants to be content and live a happy life, which is totally fine if that's what you want. But it's kind of nice to see that she's like found this thing that she's really passionate about and she wants to pursue it, because it means something to her and she likes it. I love that for her.
Love that for her.
Love that for her. Good for you, Unchan. Good for you.
And then, as he often does, Han Sung meets up with Han Gyul to
That's right. It's
talk
time
about
for the wine boys.
the wine boys.
they drink some wine. They whine a little bit. It's
fantastic.
They love to do it.
The crux of their conversation comes down to sort of the both of them realizing and having like a frank statement of like, wow, we really are trying to kind of change our partners to suit ourselves, aren't we?
It's like, oh, wow. Huh.
Which, that could have been the alternate title of this podcast. Don't change your partner to suit yourself, dummy.
Just stop trying to change your partner to suit yourself already.
Accept people for who they are already.
I feel like, good in sentiment, but like that would be so many words to say in our intro. Like,
yeah. I'm glad we went the way we did with this.
We already have to work so hard to sync up the just kiss already. Like, imagine having to sync up like your partner is a valuable person and they don't need to change to suit your needs.
Ooh, that was the best one. I'm gonna write that
Thank
one
you.
down in case we need to rebrand at some point.
Okay, good. We gotta, keep them in our back pocket just in case.
Then we cut to like the most unsupervised working conditions I've ever seen.
Oh
where
my god.
Happy CB is singing with Harim, cutting bushes with giant shears, dancing on a ladder as Unchan walks by, and I'm like, she's dead. They're gonna fall, and it's gonna end, and it's gonna be over.
It's so unsafe. It's so unbelievably unsafe. Also, I think it's Hangul who walks by, not Unchan.
Oh, you're right, I think.
I know they look the same because,
because of their haircuts.
Yeah, there you go. I really didn't know where I was going with that because I was like, I could make a joke about how he's so much taller than her, but like, it just doesn't feel right. So yeah, no, they do have the same haircut pretty much though, so.
They both have Lego hair.
But yeah, no, CB is very happy. Oh my god, you're so right. They do both have Lego hair. You could just...
the processing time. Oh my god.
It took me a second. I was already on CV, but then my brain realized what you said. Oh man. Anyway, Lego hair aside, CB is very happy because of his new development with his wonderful Unsei. That he's just dancing recklessly on this ladder and like snipping these big my brain went plant cutters, and I was like, that's not... That's not what they're called, I don't think.
Shears?
Sure. Shear!
Can I borrow a cup of sugar? Shear!
Yeah, so it's very unsafe, but I guess it's fine, because they're having a good time. Right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, isn't there ooh, I know how to talk, don't worry. Isn't this where Hangul's car should be? What happened to the parking spot?
Oh my god, don't do this to me. Now I'm gonna have to write a film analysis paper about how Copy Prince is The Shining.
No, it's fine. He pulled up. And he saw what was going on that ladder, and he was like, there's no way I'm parking there today. And he parked off to the side instead.
Yeah, he parked on the roof. He took the ramp that we never see because we only see one angle of the store. There
is the third story, so,
Oh, is this where... I was gonna ask, is this where Harim gets friend-zoned?
He gets friend-zoned, yes. But first, Hangul has to walk in. And he walks in and he sees Sungi and he sees Mr. Hong and he's like, yes, employees. And then he turns about 45 degrees and he just sees Unchan dead on the table. And he's like, what? And they're like, yeah.
Right.
She drank like 200 cups of coffee or something. And she's just like, she's got coffee grounds on her face. And he's like, what happened?
Why do you work like you're running out of time, Unchan?
But yes, then very soon after, Harim is, so this is where he's like, yeah, dude, Bill told me that she just wants to be friends. Like, I was like, we were about to kiss, and she hit me with the, actually, I kind of want to be friends with you. And he's like, what the heck? And all I wrote down was just Harim is so bad at connecting with people.
Yeah, it's like a little bit sad in a way. Like,
yeah.
I think outwardly people see him as a playboy, but then when we get insight into his experiences, it's kind of more like pathetic than that.
Yeah, I do think it's very possible that he has been successful with the Playboy Act. And we see later on Buell's true personality. And it just kind of feels like for once he's met his match.
I think you might be right about that. This might be like his straw that broke the coffin.
Anyway, next I wrote, look at them. Aww. And I really don't know what I'm referring to.
Well, the next thing I wrote was Hong-gil and Eun-chan finally talk. And I think this is on like the Coffee Prince balcony area.
Yes, because there's no other place we can talk about our relationship. There's 3 locations. There's kitchen alcove, which is for bad things but also advice. There's the big giant table upstairs, which is always for arguments. And then there's the outside balcony area, which kind of can go either way. It can be really cute, but it can also be an argument. And that is where you must be if you are going to have a relationship issue in Coffee Prince. Those are the rules. They're very clear.
Yes. And I don't want to like undersell this moment, but I wrote down, oh shit, like this is happening, because they have a little conversation and then Hong-gil officially kind of proposes to her here, doesn't he?
Yeah. He even like makes a comment that's like, oh my god, proposing is so embarrassing.
Yeah, it's so cheesy.
It's so cute though. It is a very sweet moment where they kind of like, for once, sit down and calmly talk about what's going on, which to their credit, they do tend to reach this moment. Like they've had a lot of like disagreements before that have followed the pattern of like, I'm not talking to you and now I'm only going to be baby and now I'm going to talk to somebody else, and it generally ends with them talking to each other. So to their credit, they do this. They can do this. But yeah, it's very cute. It's very cheesy.
Yeah, I wrote that they do a little squat hug because he's so tall.
Yeah, she gives him, so first he kind of like walks away and she goes and like back hugs him, and it's like, aw, and then he turns around and he kind of has to crouch down a little because she is very small.
I like this proposal because it wasn't like big over the top like they joked about when Eun-chan was like, I want my face on the building and I want a boat and a million flowers. But it was also more formal than like all the weird like, hey, we're wedding shopping for my cousin and his wife. Do you want to get married?
Yes. Oh my god. You know, I try and erase that one from my memory because...
And then after big proposal time, they go and visit Eun-chan's family. So they visit Eun-se and Mama, and we find out that Hong-gil already knows Eun-se's love language because he just kind of forks over a wad of cash.
Oh my god, he looks at her and he's like, this is a money goblin. And he immediately offers her cash and she's like, approved.
She's like, you have my blessing to marry my sister.
Aww.
And then we get like, because this isn't the first time he's been at Eun-chan's house. There was that time very, very early on where he like had to borrow a shirt or spent the night or something and saw like, oh, this is how hard Eun-chan is working. But he gets to go up to the room and like see all the gifts that he's given her that are kind of on display and like just how she lives. And he's like, oh, do you sleep on this bed? And she's like, mostly on the floor. Yeah.
It's very cute. And then it goes a little weird because they like kiss. And then Hong-gil starts kind of like trying to maybe do a little more. And Eun-chan, and I just like wrote down like, Hong-gil, the family is here. Because like, they did literally just go upstairs after talking to mom and sister, and this is a room that Eun-chan shares with her sister, and I was like, Han-gyeol, is now the time? But he, like, kind of, like, is, like, moving his hand down, and Eun-chan is like, what were you doing? What was your hand doing? Hey. And he's like, what? I was not doing anything. My hand slipped. And she's like, you were doing something. And he's like, no. And he immediately reverts to baby and is like, I can't believe you would think that I would do something. If anyone was doing something, you were doing something. And it's like, what?
This last, like, third of this episode is so horny. It's just so much. Because even before this, she's like, yeah, this is Lego Eun-chan. Like, I sleep with it. And then I wrote, Han-gyeol's like, whoa, you put the Lego in your toddies? And it's like, no, she doesn't.
Oh my god, he does totally be like, do you put it? And then he, like, gestures down his shirt. And she's like, no.
See, this is why I'm still on that, like, the conspiracy theory team of Han-gyeol, also virgin. Because he thinks that anybody would want to have, like, a fun Lego figurine in their décolletage. It's...
Oh my god.
And so I wrote, go to horny jail, because that's what she does.
Yeah.
She bonks him, and then she tells him to go to horny jail.
Yeah.
And then it actually
tries to
turns
be
into
like,
an
no.
argument, and I'm like, damn it, please, no.
Yeah, we love to do it, don't we?
Ugh.
So. The next thing that I wrote was harem, why?
Oh, see, that's great, because I wrote Buell and harem, period, repulsive, period.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, listen, Jaren, there's something on my mind, and I think you know what it is.
Please.
But really quick, we do have this scene of, like, I'm pretty sure this is where, like, harem comes out of the little, like, kitchen area, and he's telling Eun-chan how stupid Buell is, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna, like, go on a date, and then he, like, makes this comment where it's like, I told her that if she holds her phone into the sun, it'll charge it, and she was like, wow, and then she did it, and he's like, isn't she stupid? And then he even makes a comment being like, I guess I'll call this other girl now. I guess just, like, insinuating that he is intending... When Buell is, like, mad at him, he's like, no, I have to stay single. But then the second she's like, okay, we're fine, he's like, excellent, I can now date 2 girls at once.
God.
Which, that's all fine and dandy. But listen, Jared. We talked about this earlier. In Coffee Prince, there's a rule. If you're going to have a thing happen in your relationship, it needs to be kept in the correct spaces, which are the kitchen alcove, which is for advice and very bad things, the upstairs big table, which is for arguments, and the balcony, which is for who knows. The important thing about these spaces, though, is that while all of them are within earshot of the customers, none of them are actually near the customers. Now, Jaren.
Yes.
Tell me why I'm seeing Han-gyeol and Eun-chan argue right next to a customer's table to the point
It really happens.
where they all, like, usually we see the customers and I'm like, I know that they're listening. I know that they can hear this. But this time they, like, look. They see. They, like, react. And I'm like, no. This is too real. We can't.
They get, like, the 4D experience this time.
They literally, I don't remember who shoves who, but somebody shoves somebody, like, into the table, essentially. And I was like, this isn't allowed. And I'm starting to believe that our prior hypothesis of that all of the customers just come to see the will they won't they of the boss and the cute boy have been confirmed. Because none of them leave. They just sit there and watch.
Their horseplay is literally, like, one step away from, oh, sorry, we knocked over your drink, sir. We'll get you another one. Like...
Oh my god. It's right there. I was like, we can't even, like, pretend, oh, maybe the customers don't hear. Like, no. They hear. They know. And apparently they don't care because they keep coming back.
So they're fighting here because of Hangul's inability to handle his impure thoughts, right?
Yeah, we transitioned into this like weird. Hangul obviously is it's horny time for him. He belongs in horny jail, but he can't admit it, and so he's basically just trying to turn the tables by being like, "Do not touch me, Unchen. Don't get near me." And she thinks it's like fun and playful in a game, and she's like, oh, "What do you mean? I'm gonna come get you?" And he's like, "No, stay over there."
Unchan, if you touch me, I will bust a nust, and that is not allowed in the workplace.
I know I let a lot of things slide here at Coffee Prince, like arguing right next to the customers and also all kinds of other shenanigans, but this is too far.
It's like the weirdness in this episode that really bothers me has to do with all this horniness, and it's Hangul acting like he can't control himself is the thing that bothers me the most. And we kind of see that with him here being like, "Don't touch me, like, please, like, you don't understand." And it's like, what's not to understand, buddy?
Yeah. Yes, very valid point, and I see it. Currently, I do not have my rom-com glasses on, so I'm going to put them on really quick. And now that I'm wearing them and I'm seeing through the lens of rom-com, I can see how it was intended to be playful. I agree with what you're saying very much. But at the same time, I kind of get what they were going for. Like, it definitely feels like he's just being like, "Stop it! Stop!"
I will say, it reminded me very specifically of, like, middle school relationship type stuff. But I can definitely see, what they were going for, and, like, I have the context to recognize the sort of, like, relationship stage they were emulating, I guess. Because it's a hard job to go from these characters and this sort of subject matter, which has all been very wholesome, and the ramp up that we are getting in this episode's last third, it's like we went from very rarely ever flirting with the idea of sexual tension to now it is a key plot point. And so I think that is sort of what's contributing to my apprehension about the handling.
Yeah. Fair enough. That makes sense. I mean, obviously I consume this kind of content a lot more, so even though I do agree with you and think that it has been kind of presented as very wholesome, I didn't read the sexual tension as like new or sudden. And maybe that's just because like I'm more kind of in the zone of like watching rom-com stuffs, and the sexual tension for me has been there the whole time. So to have them acknowledge it, I was like, there we go.
This has definitely been like the WrestleMania sign in the sky that like all the characters point to at some point. Like there's those weird dream sequences where like Hangul thinks sex is just a pillow fight, and there's the weird like Unsei is like, "Did you do it?" Like it's been there, but it's always been slapped away. That now that it's not being immediately slapped away, it's like, oh shit, we're here now. Like I didn't expect that one day the light would stop turning red and it's just green now.
Yeah. So then all that is happening, and for some reason we then cut to just Harim in a tree.
Oh yeah, I forgot that he is just doing his thing.
He's like on the phone, and for some reason he has to be like in the tree. And listen, I know I've gone off a little bit about how like the customers are here. I can't help but think that he's just in this tree and there's like a table of customers next to him. I don't know because we don't see it, but it's in the back of my mind.
We're always one step away from just the characters putting their cell phone down and turning to the customers and being like, do you mind? I'm on a call right now. Like,
honestly, yeah, that feels exactly like something that could totally happen.
Why is he in a tree?
I don't know. I don't know what we were trying to convey with him being in the tree. Like, I feel like he could have easily been anywhere else having this conversation and it would have been the same. But he's in a tree.
For visual interest. They wanted to mix it up. They were like, they caught on to the fact that you can only talk about relationships in these 3 places. Throw him in a tree.
They're like, we have to make them think that was never a thing. But he's in this tree and he's talking to Bill. And this is where we get that confirmation that he thinks he has the upper hand because he's like inviting her out to a date. And then it cuts to her and she's kind of being like, oh, well, I can't go tonight because I'm going out, like, drinking. And he's like, drinking? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, are any boys going to be there? And she's like, yeah, there's going to be 3 of them. And he's like, God. What? And then she even does the, like, oh, no, I can't hear you. We're breaking up. Oh, no. And she hangs up and she immediately turns to, like, the 3 friends that she's sitting, like, and is like, he wants to go on a date at a convenience store. He's like, he's a baby. And they're like, that's oh, Bill, you're always getting the men and leading them on. And she's like, yeah, it's whatever. And I'm like, oh. So this is where we get confirmation that, like, Ha-Rim has finally met a girl who can... I don't know what kind of girls he was meeting before, but, like, because I feel like Ha-Rim wouldn't be that hard to outsmart. But apparently this is the first one who's done it. Because...
See, the way it's framed is that, like, Buell is absolutely playing him. Because she's even, like, she references, like, the phone solar battery charging thing because she's like, oh, no, my battery is dying. After he was like, yeah, I told her to charge her phone by holding it up to the sun. And I just have to wonder, because in the previous episode, we saw that she was, like, going to Coffee Prince and just, like, staring at him. Like, what was the purpose? Did he, like, give her shit? I don't get what either of them got out of this exchange.
I mean, to be completely fair, if we think about what Ha-Rim has been doing, which is putting on this extremely weird act where he, like, gave her the tray and made her follow him into the kitchen, and then, like, I don't know, like, he's playing with her because he thinks that she's, like, stupid or something or whatever. She's just kind of doing the exact same thing to him, like... maybe she's just getting fun the exact way that he does, which is by just playing with this person who is none the wiser. Which, when you put it that way, wow, that's pretty bad, huh?
Yeah. I just feel like, man, how much free time do both of you have that you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna kind of go to some guy's work after my job and just sort of see what happens. Maybe he'll try to play me, and then I'll get, like, a sick karma bonus by playing him instead.
Yeah, you know, maybe they're just bored.
That's so often the case, isn't it?
And at least the only, like, saving grace that this interaction has is that instead of being like, oh, one of them is playing the other and it's bad, it's like, okay, well, at least they're both playing each other, so both people are bad and getting bad from the other. So at least it all equals out, right?
Yeah. In my opinion as a viewer, I'm just like, there are no winners here. Like, this is a fruitless enterprise.
Well, I wrote down they're literally perfect for each other.
You know, if they end up together, that would be so bizarre, but I really want that now.
It's just... Their entire relationship is just I wonder, would it be funnier if they, like, found out what was going on, or if they just were always none the wiser and they continued to date having no idea that the other person was, like, a completely different person?
Ooh, that one that you just said, that's a whole nother show.
That's
but for the wrap-up of this show, I would really love if they just, like, catch each other conning other people at a bar.
Oh my
and then
God.
They sort of look at each other, and then they just both let, like, the facade drop, and they're like, oh, so you're like me, huh? And it's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah, that's true. If they're not going to bring this relationship into Red Bean Milk Tea Emperor, then they'll have to wrap it up. Anyway, what happens next?
At Coffee Prince, they're talking about, like, Un-chan leaving, pretty much.
Oh, yeah, because apparently everybody actually knows that this is in fact a business that they run and that employees are needed in order for that to happen. And they recognize that if she leaves, and also Han-gyeol they're going to need a new employee, and it's like, that was just like a very weirdly like jarring, like, oh, so we do know that this is like a workplace.
Yeah, jarring is the right word for it, because I was absolutely like, wait, what? Like, we're gonna bring other people in on this? What are you talking about?
This isn't just somewhere we go and hang out. Like, this is an actual business.
I think Harim even throws out Han Byul's name. He's like, yeah, we'll get her a job here. And they're like,
oh, yeah,
it's
no.
Coffee Prince.
Everyone throws out who they want. Harim is like, Byul, yeah, Byul good. And then CB is like, what about my angel? And so he just kind of like gives him a little smack.
Aww.
But yeah, there is no decision made, but it is brought to our attention that apparently someone new is going to be joining the Coffee Prince family. Which is so weird to think about.
While she's here, Unchan leaves a message and a name tag on a branch of the tree that, like, reaches up by the balcony.
Yeah.
And I think I remember it's basically something to the effect of, like, let's meet again in 2 years, Coffee Prince. And I was like, aw.
Aww.
I wrote a note here that's, like, sort of a personal one, because, like, no send-off is good enough for someone you love. And that was the vibe that I kind of got from the end of this episode. Because it's Unchan is saying goodbye to her family and to this job that she loves and to Mr. Hong, who she's known for a long time, and to Hong Yul. And in a way, like, there's nothing that any of them can do to, like, give her the goodbye that, like, would be perfect or would be what she deserves. Because it's like, when you love someone, like, saying goodbye, there's no perfect way to do it. Ugh, I made myself sad. This is bad.
Oh no, don't be sad. How'd you feel about us kind of ending on the implication that Unchan and Hangul are gonna sleep together?
How did I feel about that?
Yes.
Not the best.
You didn't like the whole little, like, she comes over and she's like, let me stay at the house. And he's like, get out of the house. If you stay in this house, I'm going to want to sleep with you. And she was like, okay, I'm going to stay in the house. And he was like, and she was like, and then they kiss.
I was struggling to come up with an episode title for this one.
Oh, wow, yeah, I just realized we don't have one yet.
Yeah, because I kept struggling with it, and I was like, I don't really understand how to put the feelings that I have towards the end of this episode into words. And looking at my notes, the only thing that really stands out is all caps, I'm gonna cheat! And I'm like, this is beyond the pale. Because the feeling that I got as somebody watching was like, she leaves her home, she's like resolved that, like, okay, I'm gonna go sleep with my boyfriend before I leave for 2 years. And he puts her out like it's the goddamn Flintstones. Like, he picks her up by the collar and puts her on the porch, and she's like banging on the door trying to get back in. And he like gives her wine, and she just like downs it and asks for more. And I'm like, please don't be psyching yourself up to have sex with somebody. And then that's what happened. And I was just very sort of uncomfortable with it. And on one level, like, if this is something that they both wanted, like, yeah, that's great. And I appreciate that, like, it was a huge step probably for Unchan. And I appreciate that Hangul was trying to be, like, no, like, don't get caught up in the emotion of the situation. Like, leave, please, basically. And I guess I just don't know what to make of this ending or this episode in general as it pertains to, like, these two characters fucking, basically.
I will say that the way that it came across to me wasn't necessarily that, like, Unchan had to psych herself up for it, or that, like, she had to, like, convince herself or anything. It felt a bit more like she had kind of decided that this was something that she wanted, but she wasn't really sure how to say that, or maybe she was kind of embarrassed to, like, say it and put it into words. I do think that perhaps the weird feelings that this ending gave you probably could have been solved by Unchan, instead of doing what she did, which was just kind of like beat around the bush until Hangul kind of had to like drag out of her the fact that she did in fact want to stay and sleep with him and take that step in their relationship. If she instead had just kind of like shown up and be like, listen, I'm ready. I think I would like to take this step. And then he would have probably been like, oh, sweet. And then they would have slept together and we wouldn't have had that like kind of weird interaction. But to their credit, it did kind of feel like she wasn't like trying to convince herself or make herself do it. It felt more like she wanted to. She just didn't really know how to ask. She didn't really know how to tell him. Maybe she was a bit embarrassed to tell him because, you know, this is like her first boyfriend, her first relationship, her first time. Like, I kind of get that she was like unsure really how to go about it. But I can see how maybe the steps could have been a little better for the comfort of the viewer.
Well, yeah, I think that's very valid. And again, like we mentioned earlier, it's only weird because we are an audience of people watching this play out. Yes. Like if this was just something that happened, it would be normal. But because we're kind of like forced to watch it, we're also sort of forced to examine and question the circumstance. Yeah. I will say, though, very funny that I wrote, second to last thing on this page is Unchan can squeeze her head through any space her hair fits through, as we see when she worms her way back inside from the porch.
It's because she has Lego hair. Oh, her hair is like a cat's whiskers. They tell her if the space is big enough for her to fit through.
I did really like it ends on big kiss. And
big kiss.
Yeah, I think this is more so than being like a funny or like a heartwarming episode for me. This was a very compelling episode. Like if we weren't recording this for a podcast, I probably would have sat and watched these last 3 episodes back to back because
I absolutely would have. I hate waiting.
Yeah, and it feels like this is also probably the first time that the show has really made me feel that. Like I just want to know what happens next. So I think it's a very effective story, and I think they're telling it well. I just think that like I have personal hangups that kind of get in the way of the intended response sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's valid.
But that does mean that we are without a title for this episode. So,
what are we gonna do for the title? Oh no.
Well, we could try to come up with one together, or this could be a special guest title episode where Kara picks what it's called.
Oh my god. Wow, this is a lot of pressure that I didn't realize you had each week. When you initially said you didn't have one, my first thought was like, maybe this episode's title is just Go to Horny Jail.
Ooh. See, that was a thought.
Yeah.
We also have Don't Make Your Partner Suit Yourself. You
know what? You're very right. We do still have... Do we want to use that on an episode title, though? Or do we want to, like... This is a very good card we have in our hand. Do we want to use it now?
God, you know, as much as the merchandising people are gonna come down on me for this one, I really feel like it would be very funny to see an alternate version of our logo where it says, Don't Make Your Partner Suit Yourself already as the episode title and cover.
Aw. Okay, yeah. No, yeah, let's go with that. Episode 16. Oh wait, we had a couple of different options. Which one do we want?
I liked the last one you did.
Oh no.
Your partner is valid and a complete human being already, or something like that.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea what I said. Good thing we're recording this.
Yeah, we could go back and look and then have a fun surprise for ourselves later when we find out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's honestly, yeah. It'll be really funny too when people see it, because we'll have the title and then they'll hear this part at the end where we're like, what should we call this episode? All right, cool.
Sick.
I'll when listening and editing later, we'll write it down and let you know. All right. Well, now I think that means we've settled everything, and that means that's the end of this episode.
Is there really only one episode left?
That's right. We've got one more. One more cup of coffee, Prince.
Wild.
Well, if you would like to know what happens in the very last episode of Coffee Prince, you could watch it. Or You could hear us tell you about it, or you could watch it and then hear us tell you about it to really complete the cycle. The choice is up to you. But either way, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week with episode 17.
Episode 17, the finish line can be seen.
There we go. Aw. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Love you. Mwah, mwah.